enterprise SaaS, if you've worked in it, can be really hard, right? So what I want to do today is share my perspective on product market fit and how you can take, build the right product and take it from 0 to 1 and then $1 to $10 million in revenue and something from it. So before I get started, let's just quick level, the approach and framework we're discussing here applies equally to products, whether you're doing it in a startup or you're building a product or a new offering in an existing company. It doesn't really matter. The product management aspects are very similar. It's just that the scale and some of the risk aspects are very different. So the other piece is that you'll hear me use the term founder a lot, and I'm using it, to talk about both, like a founder in a startup as well as a product person or anyone that is building a new product offering that did not exist before in an existing company, right? So they're all founders to me. And the last thing I would say is, in this conversation, because of my background, I'm going to share things that I've learned in the enterprise SaaS space. I believe it actually applies to a lot of consumer SaaS companies as well. But my experience is in enterprise SaaS, and I just want to call it out. Everything is all about what I've learned in this journey, building enterprise products. And last thing, a quick disclaimer: my opinions are my opinions here. It's not endorsed by my employer. Just a quick call out. All right. So with that, a bit about me. Things beyond what an Oren call out. So I graduated from Indian Institute of Technology at Kharagpur in India, and I majored in mathematics and computer science. I started as as an engineer, grew up into engineering management role, ran a small team of engineers, and that's when I discovered product management. I didn't even know that was a thing, right? Unlike most people, I had no idea, what I wanted to do in my career. So I was figuring it out, fell in love with it, and I never looked back. And since then, I've been doing product management, in enterprise SaaS, covering different domains across security, cloud security, compliance, content collaboration, and so on. So I've worked in various different domains that pertain to enterprise software and SaaS. And over the course of time, I've built new products from scratch a few times, and I've failed miserably in a few cases, and in some cases I've been successful along with my team. So what I want to do is, I've seen both the sides when I failed and when I succeeded as a team. I want to share the perspectives from those experiences. So the first question is, so we all understand and we have a consistent point of view in this conversation moving forward, is what is product market fit, right? And there are some definitions out there I'll just call out. So the first one is, Mark Andreessen, and from his perspective, product market fit means being in a good market with a product that can satisfy that market, right? So it's very important that you know that the market has viability for you and has a problem that you can go solve and through a product that you can build, right? So it's very important to kind of keep that in mind. Another definition, this is from Aaron Levy, CEO of Box, and in his couple of talks that he's given, he's talked about product market fit, meaning that your product and its value proposition resonates with your target group. And it means that the problem your app solves and the way it solves it reflects the needs of your audience, right? The third definition, and I think this is the source of the term, product market fit. It came from Andy Rachleff. It's actually a misconception that Mark Andreessen defined product market fit as a term. He didn't coin it. It was Andy Rachleff. And in fact, Mark, in his original article, only thing that matters, he actually gives credit to Andy Rachleff. So what Andy says is that the number one company killer is the market, right? If you don't, if you build a product that doesn't really have a clear market, you're going to lose. And market matters most. And there's a few things he has said, which is very interesting. So he's talked about when a great team meets a lousy market wins. When a lousy team meets a great market, the market wins. And when a great team meets a great market, something special and amazing happens. And his key point is that market is the most important thing. You can't win over the market. You have to think about and plan for the market you're going after. Now, the next question is, if you understood what product market fit means, the next question is, how do you know you have product market fit? If you're building a new product, how do you figure it out? One of the things I've heard, this is from Drew, like stepping on a landmine. At first when I read this quote, I didn't quite understand what does stepping on a landmine mean, but I think what Drew is really trying to say is that you can't expect what it feels like, but it feels different in a very crazy way. All your metrics go haywire. Something amazing is happening. I don't know if amazing equates landmine, but you get the idea. Uh, the other one is from Sam Altman, where he said, if you have a product market fit, users are spontaneously telling about your product to other people. So it spreads word of mouth and actually helps you grow pretty quickly. Very applicable to consumer products if you're building it. And again, I'll go back to Mark Anderson because I think he, has the most, clear definition in terms of what it feels like. And I'm going to read that. So you can always feel product market fit when it's happening. The customers are buying the product just as fast as you can make it, or usage is growing as fast as you can add more servers. Money from customers are piling into your bank account, checking account, whatever you have, and you're hiring more sales, and customer support staff as fast as you can, right? So it actually makes you sort of picturize what that would feel like. Is a path to get to that feeling, because that feeling, as you saw, the way you described it, the way Sam described it, the way Mark and recently described it, they actually felt it, but they felt it in different ways and they verbalized it in different ways. So the key thing is knowing what product market fit is and figuring out what is the path to get there, right? Because the feeling amongst the audience here in this call, actually, I would say would be very different when each of us achieve product market fit. So feeling is not going to help. It's the path to get there. And here are a few models that exist out there. When I was doing my research as a product manager, I saw that there are existing, work that people have done. They have talked about it. So why not build on top of it and learn from them? So let's start there. So the first one is the Sean Ellis test, right? So Sean Ellis is one of the very well-renowned growth hacker. He has a book called Hacking Growth, worked at Dropbox and other companies. And his approach to product market fit identification is a simple survey. And the survey has one question, which is the customer. And the question is, how would you feel if you could no longer use our product? Would you be very disappointed, somewhat disappointed, or not disappointed? And his thesis was, when you analyze the response to the surveys, the count of customers that came back to you saying very disappointed, if that's more than 40%, then you have product market fit. And it's based on some massive analysis it did across various different companies, and he arrived at the conclusion that the companies that achieved product market fit actually had the very disappointed score of more than 40%. And in parallel, Hiten Shah, he did a survey on Slack as he was working on Kissmetrics. And as you can see, the response for Slack survey was 51% was disappointed. Slack has product market fit. I think it's not surprising to all of us. Many of us here use Slack. I definitely use Slack, and I'm pretty happy. So the point is not that Slack has product market fit. The point is there's a way for identifying. The next one I came across, Raul Vora is a CEO at Superhuman. And what he did was he took the Sean Ellis test and made it better. And instead of just one question in the survey, he added 3 more questions. And the 3 other questions that he had, besides the how would you feel question, was what type of people do you think would most benefit from this product? The third question is, what is the main benefit you receive from this product? And the final question in the survey is, how can we improve the product for you, right? So not only you get a response on whether the user is going to be very disappointed, somewhat disappointed, or not disappointed at all, you actually get some very qualitative response on their ideas, their reaction to the benefit, and what can the company do to make it better. So you get a lot of inputs that you can actually factor, then do what his product market fit engine is designed to do. And the engine does 4 things. First is you segment. And the way you segment is to find supporters and paint a picture of what Rahul calls as high expectation customers. And high expectation customer, or HXC, is a term that was coined by Julie Sapan. She is an Dropbox known marketing strategist. And it's a very useful framework for defining positioning for your product. But we'll talk about that later at some point. So you segment your customer base based on the survey, and then you analyze the feedback to figure out how can you convert customers who are on the fence into fanatics, into high expectation customers. And then you build your roadmap by splitting into two different focus areas, which is doubling down on what users love and addressing capabilities or gaps that are holding the other half back, right? And this is how you convert some of the people on the fence into fanatics. And then you repeat 1, 2, and 3 again, right? So that's the engine that Rahul Vora has. And I actually love it. It's great. But as I thought about it, I felt the challenge, which is to do this right, you have to understand what your high expectation customer is. So you really know who you're going after. And by the time you figured out your HXC, you sort of figured out the product market fit, or you're very close to it. So I think when I look at using this framework in what I do, it didn't quite help me. But I think for a lot of you, actually HXC in and use this engine to take your number. If it's below 40% in the Shaw analyst test, take it beyond 40% and achieve product market fit. So I think it's a pretty good model. The next one is the one I came across from Adam Fisher. He's one of the VCs in Bessemer Ventures, and his approach is the 4th quadrant of product market fit. And on the on the x-axis, you have depth of customer engagement. On the y-axis, you have the strength of the product and the business vision. And the point is that on the x-axis, you are thinking about things like understanding customer priorities, the needs, the alternatives that the customer has if they don't go with your solution, the concerns they may have, level of engagement and usage, so on and so forth. So that's the x-axis. And the y-axis stands for, what does the vision mean? And especially, what does it mean in terms of how compelling it is for your prospective customer and users, right? So compelling is the key element there. So if you plot your product and see where it lies in the quadrant, you can see that you either have a revenue-centric product, or just or you actually have a product market fit. Now, I tried using this. I didn't quite see the value in terms of figuring out product market fit, but I definitely saw value in terms of staying on course as you're working through it. And I'll actually go back to this framework towards the end and show how I'm using this framework in my thought process. And the other one is highly number oriented. It's based on data science, and this is from Tribe Capital. They strongly advise to use data science to do product market fit, and that's actually a great framework. My only issue with this framework is that it assumes that you have a lot of data, which means you have a lot of customers, you have a lot of activity, and then the problem is that is exactly the issue you're trying to solve. So I think at some point it gets very, very useful. And actually, if you're a VC and you're trying to do some data analysis, all your portfolio companies, I think it's a great framework. If you try to use it as a founder building a product and trying to figure out the product market fit, it gets very hard, right? And at some point, maybe when you're at 10 million run rate, I think maybe you can start using it because you have enough data to actually base it on. The final one I'll call out is the framework from Brian Balfour from Reforge. He's ex-VP. I actually like his framework a lot. I think one of the most practical framework that I would recommend people to either read and use and benefit from. And he talks about the market, product, channel, and model fit. So there and I think actually if you read his blog around this, it's actually very, very useful, very informative, and it actually tells you what you the chart a lot of in his model of achieving product market fit. He says it's not just product market fit, it's beyond product market fit, which I agree. But the framework is a bit complex if you want to actually use it in real life. So the one thing that I do believe that you can use and I use is the retention curve, where you can look at the activity and as the on a user level, if you're a consumer, or an enterprise level, if you're an enterprise SaaS company, you can see as the renewals are happening, where does the as the usage is being monitored, where does it actually flatten out? And if it flattens out, it's great because for that segment of users that are actively using the product, you have a product market fit for those set of users. But if it's not staying flat at any point in time, it just keeps going down and down and down, you likely don't have a product market fit, right? So the retention curve is actually a very good framework. I would advise all of you to use and consider. So why did I talk about all these frameworks? First of all, I actually love taking lessons from others and building on top of it instead of starting from scratch, which is why I'm speaking to you so that you can benefit from the learnings I have. But when I tried using these frameworks, I had some challenges because these frameworks don't quite apply to enterprise SaaS as is. And so the key question is, so what is different about enterprise SaaS business? Like, why, Alok, why do you believe that it doesn't quite apply as is to enterprise SaaS? So let me walk you through some of the differences between consumer and enterprise SaaS businesses. So the first thing is, in terms of the buyer user model, the first role on the consumer side, buyer is the user, right? But on the enterprise side, buyer is rarely the user. Buyer, in most cases, happens to be IT, and they're buying it on behalf of their employees. So buyer and users are not one and the same. It's possible if you actually have a freemium-based model where you're trying to kind of, your route to market is grassroots and up, then maybe the eventual buyer and the user is the same, but in most cases, the buyer and the user are not the same. Now, in terms of adoption and the sales model, on the consumer side, it's driven by virality, word of mouth, SEOs, and so on. But on the enterprise side, you need sales and partner sales channels, and then this could be direct sales, indirect sales, partner-led, sales, so on and so forth. In terms of the growth, opportunities and how it feels like, it's actually very different there as well. So on the consumer side, if you actually have got something right, you'll see an explosive growth. But the unfortunate side of the consumer business is that in many cases, it's somewhat unstable. Your customers are not so loyal with you. As long as you're keeping them happy and meeting their need, the moment there's something else that shows up, they very quickly, overnight, in some cases, just move over to the next best option. So it's not a very stable option, but it can be explosive. Now, on the enterprise side, the growth can be very slow in some cases, slower definitely compared to consumers, but it's stable. Once your enterprise customers buy the product and deploy it, it's actually gets sticky and it's stable. So you can start projecting your revenue based on that going forward. Now, if you try to do growth hacking approaches, it's actually very different in consumer versus enterprise. On the consumer side, you can reach your end users directly. You can talk to them, you can message them, you can notify them, all the good stuff that helps you to actually do some of those growth hacking strategies. But in enterprise, you can't reach your users directly. It's one of those challenges that we face at Box, where you really want to speak to the end user, but IT wants to make sure that they have coherent message, and for all good reasons. They want to have coherent message and approach to their employees so that they maintain productivity across the user base, across geographies if it's a multinational corporation. So you don't get direct access to the end user in terms of growth hacks. The other piece I would call out is, as you're building these products, on the consumer side, you get a lot of leeway. Just enough security and reliability is okay. But when you're thinking of building an enterprise product, enterprise SaaS product, security, reliability, in some cases compliance, privacy, all those things are paramount. It's very, very important that it's actually baked into the product. Otherwise, enterprise customers might not even look at your offering, right? So it's something to keep in mind. Now, and a good contrast of that would be if you think of Twitter, for some reason goes down for half an hour, I might be unhappy, maybe disappointed that I can't tweet right now. But if, for example, companies like Box, if Box goes down for an hour, our customers just cannot work. So it's a very serious consequence for our customers. So reliability is really, really important. And if you think from a design perspective, on the consumer side, you're designed for the end user directly because the buyer and the user is the same. But when it comes to enterprise, you're designing for IT admin and end users as well. So you're looking at both the aspects. So these are some of the key differences. So what is the key takeaway? The huge difference, if you notice, is that the way you take your product to market in the enterprise SaaS is actually very, very different compared to a consumer SaaS. And the way you apply growth strategies and growth hacking approaches are also very different. So in my opinion, and this is what I've learned over a couple of years, that to be successful, to build a successful product in enterprise SaaS, you need to factor a go-to-market channel very early on. You cannot ignore it. You cannot just focus on product and the market. Those two alone would not make your product successfully, whether you like it or not. It's just fact in enterprise SaaS. So what I believe we all need to do if you're working in enterprise and you're building enterprise SaaS products is that you need product market channel fit. right? I didn't really want to make things more complex by adding one more word next to product market. That was not the intent. I'm not trying to be creative that way. I just feel, based on my experience, that that is really, really important component if you're building an enterprise SaaS product, right? And if you pay attention to the arrows are also kind of interesting and very important. What I've seen is that, of course, product has to meet the market needs. It doesn't work the other way around, right? Unless you are one of those rare companies where you built a product that actually created a massive new market. It happens rarely. It can happen, but in most cases, you're building product for a target market, right? So the arrow points to the market. And when you're building product, you're building product for a given channel. It doesn't work the other way around. You can't change the channel to meet the needs of the product. The product has to meet the need of the channel. So that arrow is also important. And then the channel has to be the right channel to the market, the target market you want to get to. So those arrows are really important. And what you will notice is that product has two directional relationship to market and channel, whereas channel has unidirectional relationship to market, and market cares about nothing. Market doesn't care about channel, market doesn't care about the product, right? So that's why, going back to Andy Ratcliffe, market matters most and market doesn't care, market wins, right? So that's very visible if you look at the arrows here. So market channel fit, or PMC fit, in a nutshell. It is, on the market side, you're identifying underserved market needs by focusing on customers and discovering their problems. On the product side, you're iterating on the solution that best solves the problem and can be sold through available channels. And on the channel side, you want to prove that you have repeatable sales model and that the pricing and acquisition strategy that you have is actually working for the target market. So you have to think about all these three components. And I'm going to walk you through these things in more detail in the next 10 minutes or so, and then we'll open up for Q&A. So if you think of the product market channel fit journey overall, it starts with, of course, the eureka moment where you have this phenomenal idea you're excited about, and then you actually go start your own company, or you pitch within your own existing organization to your executives, and you start the concept of a new product or an existing product in an existing company. Either way, you're a founder to me, and you get started on that idea, and then you work hard to get to the first $1 million or $2 million, and then you get to, in the growth mode, you go from 1 to 2 to 10 to 20, and then you scale up to get to a $100 million business. And these three stages are really, really distinct in my mind, and you have to pay specific attention to each of these milestones and design for it. Startup, grow, and grow up and scale up phases of your product market channel fit journey. So our focus today is going to be in the first two sections, which is startup and the growth section, growth phases, and I'll walk you through what that means. So if you think of product market fit, and I'm going to use the first letter M, P, and C to kind of use them as variables here because they actually are. And what you're really doing as a product manager or the founder is you're trying to optimize this function, which leverages market, product, and channel as the variables, right? So you're trying to optimize. It's an optimization problem. Just don't over-optimize. Just don't kill yourself trying to optimize. Just enough optimization is fine. And if you look at this function, if you will, there are this function is equal to a set of focused activities that you have to perform. You have to be laser focused on those things to actually get out with a good product that is successful, that is making money. And there are inputs to the function, which is your resources. It could be ideas, it could be surveys, whatever that feeds this function. And then there is an outcome that comes out of it, which could be, depending on the stage you're talking about, it could be new revenue, net retention rates, so on and so forth. And there is feedback loop because the market, product, and channel aspects have to feed back into each other. So I'll walk you through what that means in a few minutes. So starting with the market, the key goal is customer problem fit. That's what you want, right? That's the thing you have to focus on. So what are the focus activities? What is that function? The focus activity here is discovering the problem. Talk to your customers, run surveys, create cheap websites, and drive traffic to those websites through SEO. A lot startup founders actually talk about how they've done that, including segment.io. That's how they actually validate that actually they have something that they can really leverage. Or you could use a simple freemium-based model that actually partially solves the need. Essentially, do whatever it takes to discover the problem. But keep in mind, you are not the customer. Never ever think that just because I believe I will be happy if I solve this problem for myself, that you figured out a problem. That's usually not the case. So keep that in mind. The second thing there is discovering your customers. And the key aspect of discovering your customer is that there has to be a consistency of the problem across the set of the customers, right? The consistent problem across a set of customers is really important. And when you have that, then you have actually discovered a set of customers that you can go after, right? So that's the second thing. The third thing is the market attractive? Now, what does that mean? A lot of us make the mistake, and I see that a lot with junior PMs or folks that just start in product management. They do a TAM analysis. They look at, the market is pretty massive. Hence, if you can get 1% of the market, you actually have a business. Not true, especially if you're a startup. What you really have to focus on is two aspects. The question is, can I build a big enough? Is it so? And let me take a step back. So the key thing is it big enough for me to build a business, right? As a startup founder, and at the same time, it's niche enough for incumbents to ignore. It's really important that it has to be big enough so you can make money, but it's niche enough so that your incumbents tend to ignore you, and it's good. And when you have that, it's actually an attractive market, right? But let's say if you're not really doing a startup and you're building a new product in a company, then you have to view this from a different perspective. You have to view the market attractiveness from the lens of the position of strength for your organization. If your organization is massively successful in doing X, then is there an adjacent Y that can go along with the X, and hence you can actually start making money, right? So think from that perspective. But if you're a startup, it's important to think about, is it enough to make a business, but it's niche enough that incumbents will ignore? Outcome of this is that you have figured out customer problem fit, which is consistent problem that is acute pain for your customers. It has to be an acute pain. There is no good alternative. They're unhappy with whatever is available, and they're willing to pay for it. Once you have these three things through the exercise, which is a focus set of activities, you have customer problem fit. Now, the next step, which is the product, and here you're focused on problem solution fit and solution channel fit. Remember the two arrows, one goes to the market, one goes to the channel. You have to fit those two vectors. So on the focus set of activities, you have to iterate on design. I think we all know that. But the key thing is that don't write a single line of code, especially on the front end or the back end for front end, unless you have the UX flow somewhat figured out. Right? We tend to make mistakes. I have made those mistakes myself. The next one is build and validate the product. Right? Again, I'm saying the obvious thing here. But the thing I learned in this area is that we make the mistake of figuring out the top 3 pain points of the customer, and then we want to go for the top and the biggest pain point. And it turns out many times the biggest pain point is the most expensive thing for you to build. So going after the biggest pain point is probably not what you want to do, but maybe there's a number 2 or a number 3 there. And if you go after those number 2 and number 3, then you have a quick way of building it, validating it, and then maybe eventually go after the biggest pain point, and now you have a big business if you get to that. So think from that perspective, you don't have to go after the biggest pain point, right? So that's a key insight I learned in my experience. The next one is, of course, test the go-to-market channels so that your product actually fits the channel that you want to sell from. So if you're selling to enterprise, it should be built to support direct, indirect, partner-led models depending on the industry or the vertical or the overall market you're targeting. And sometimes you might be focused on industry verticals, so you have to kind of think from that perspective. And the last thing is you have to validate early on, and by now you may not necessarily have your sales team, right? So you're still the founder, you still have just a few engineers that are working on the product as to validate it. At this point, you are the founder or the product manager is the chief salesperson, and you are going out there and validating that I can sell it, and I can sell it in a fashion where it's always the same use case across the board, but it's an early sign of that. You may not actually know it fully, but it's an early sign of that. If that validation exists, then now you have figured out what I like to call minimum remarkable product. By the way, I didn't coin this term. It's something that David Rosenko from Weebly talked about, and I love it because I don't like MVP anymore. I used to love MVP as a term, minimum viable product, but I don't love it because the shitty product. MVP does not equal shitty product. MVP means you are solving a very important problem that's usable. But because of that, I want to pivot and use remarkable product, because the remarkable stands for 2 things. A, you have to build something that's usable and better than the alternative, which is the problem solution fit. And then it should be sellable. I've come across a lot of different cases where you have a usable product, you just can't sell it. There is no hook in the product for customers to attach and latch onto, and then your salesperson to go sell it. So it has to be sellable through available channels, which is the solution channel fit, right? So that's the second thing. The third thing is that you have to have the channel market fit. Now this is coming to the channel side, where the biggest thing, you're seeing 4 bullets in the focus activities, but the biggest and the most important thing, and I should have done that, is validating that you have repeatable sales model. That one thing beats everything else that you're seeing in the bullet list here. And the key thing is that you can repeat the sales play without the founder or the founding team, the sales leader or the director of the sales leader or the account executive. Any of those people can go sell, and it almost always works. When you have that, it's a great feeling, and you are onto something. Your acquisition strategy should be working in terms of how you build your pipeline, how you do lead gen. That funnel should convert into deals, and if that's flowing through correctly, then actually you have some semblance of channel market fit. And of course, you have to tune your pricing. One thing I'd call out on pricing is that when it comes to enterprise, don't spend too much time doing very deep pricing strategy. Don't do it. For me, it hasn't panned out. We have done a lot of exercise on pricing strategy. We felt that this is the right price, and it was almost always wrong. So don't do any of that. The market is going to guide you on what the pricing is when it comes to enterprise SaaS. I would not recommend this approach in consumer SaaS. You have to be careful. But when it comes to enterprise SaaS, you are, as a salesperson, going after a budget. And then you figure out a way to kind of fit your product into that budget. And as you do more and more of that, you'll figure out, you know what, typically I end up discounting 40%, 50%, etc. And you start seeing the difference between the list price you had, back of the napkin calculation, and then the street price. It actually then guides you into what the right pricing should be, and you can update your list pricing thereon. So don't spend too much time figuring out the pricing, but keep an eye on it as more and more deals are being closed. So the desired outcome here is that you have a repeatable sales model, ARR or MRR, whichever you are measuring, is growing, pipeline is growing, and net retention rate is at 110% plus. Right? So that's where you know you have channel market fit. So I like to think in terms of system. So I talked about these 3, lack of better words, functions. So I want to walk you through like what this means together and what does this system, end-to-end system, look like. And if you are a system thinker, you probably might see the value here. So it starts with an idea. You go after your connections. It could be your initial customer network, and you look at the market attributes, and based on that, you figure out what problem you want to solve. And that feeds into the product, the function that's optimizing for a solution, where now you are leveraging your engineers, you're building the technology stack. Hopefully the tech stack is actually unique, differentiated, so on and so forth, because tech can be your moat. Your design is unique. It's for the end users. It's consumerization of IT, and it's perfect. And the third thing is messaging. And as you're thinking about the product, you're also thinking about the message, and you're trying it. And the key thing is, as you're iterating on the product, you're validating that solution and the messaging, going back to the market, going back to the target customers that you are going after. And from the product side, the outcome is and if you have a product and now you add salespeople, you add marketing to it, and you have found a way to optimize the channel function, then you are focused on validating the repeatability and the monetization aspect. If you got all those things right, outcomes, the ARR and the net retention rate of 110% plus, you're happy, you're making money, and things are all going in the right direction. But if any of these aspects are not working right, which is when you're validating the solution, that's not resonating, or the messaging is not resonating. If solution is not resonating, you have not solved the problem. If the messaging is not resonating, don't hire salespeople, because you will not be successful selling it. Now, if the solution and messaging, all of that is resonating, you have a product and a very clear message, now you can add fuel to the fire, get more salespeople, get marketing, that will generate lead gen. You have an acquisition strategy that's working, so on and so forth. And now you see a repeatable sales model. You're really on to something. And now you can actually grow beyond the grow up phase of the journey into a scale up phase, which we're not talking about today, right? So this is how I view it in terms of 3 different functions that you have to optimize as the product manager. Now, if you sort of match it into the dollars, this is not an exact science, to be clear, but in the journey from the Eureka to the 1 million, you're focused on customer problem fit. And you also focus on problem solution fit, but it goes beyond milestone like the first $1 million, because you have to continuously iterate on that version 1, version 2, version 3, version 4 before you see that it's resonating in a way that your sales can just amplify. And then you have to have solution channel fit. You can't just build a product in a silo and not think about the channel, because you find out too late in the game, it's done. Business is over. You have to pivot, or you have to end your startup, or pack up your product. And then the final piece is the channel market fit. Is it repeatable, so on and so forth. And when you find repeatability and you find that the acquisition strategy is working, you are ready to actually go into the scale-up phase of the business, right? So I'm just mapping some of the key aspects we talked about in the previous slide into some possible dollar values. But just to be clear, it's not about being precise on 1 million or 10 million. The numbers could be different for you. You get the idea as to what matters in the startup and the grow-up phase. So now, once you've talked about product market fit journey and what you have to focus on, it's also important to keep an eye on not losing your focus. And this is where Adam at Bessemer Venture, his framework, his 4-quadrant framework is actually very powerful, because you can go wrong in 3 different ways. Let me walk you through it. The first one is you had a product market fit, but you are actually drifting away from it. You are shifting into a revenue-centric mindset, and symptoms of that is you see wide-ranging use cases, you see inconsistent sales cycles, which were not there before. You require large post-sale services. You're not doing a lot of consulting, so on and so forth. The second shift can happen when you move from product market fit, in our case, product market channel fit, to a sexy story. I like the phrase because it can mean a lot of things, but in this case, you are conflating, for whatever the reason, what media and investors are saying to you. You are in some sort of an echo chamber. You've somehow lost track of the customer that you actually started with or for. And the last thing is you can actually move from PMF into self-deception, because for whatever the reason, we have seen people feel like, I know how it's done, I've done it before, and hence, I know how to do it, so I'll build it and they will come, right? That's the biggest mistake. We all know build it and they will come doesn't really work. So keep an eye on these 3 possible drifts that can happen, because once you are at a certain milestone, these are possible. Last thing is, to do all of this, you have to have the skill set and the metal to go through this phase, because it's actually really, really hard. And what I've seen to stand out as product management skill set are a few things, and I'll call them out. And just a quick note there, you don't have to be good at everything listed out here, but these things matter. And if you're good at some of these and you're phenomenal at some of those, that's great. So you have to have hustle. You have to be willing to go out and find a path to get to the customer and have the conversation. You cannot, like I've seen a lot of product managers that I talk to and I mentor, they talk about, hey, you know what? I just can't find a way to my customer. I reached out to my salesperson and he's not getting the meeting set up. Guess what? Make it happen. You have to do it. You have to have the hustle. The second one is you have to be willing to punch through the status quo, because if everybody knew exactly what to build, then there's nothing new to build, which means you are in status quo. So when you have an idea, almost always it's not a status quo. So you have to be willing to punch through it. And the third thing, which is very closely connected, is that you have to have courage. You have to have the courage because you have to be able to punch through the status quo, but also the courage to know that you can be wrong. And it's possible, and be self-aware that you can actually be wrong and that you're ready to course correct as soon as possible. And you have to optimize for learning. It's really, really important. You have to have that mindset. You have to deeply understand leverage. And I think this is one thing that a lot of PMs don't do right. So leverage, means a lot of different things. And if you think of your biggest enemy as a product manager, it's time. Time is the biggest enemy to you in your jobs in what you do on a daily basis, but also to product market channel fit. It's the biggest enemy. Now, cash is also an enemy, but cash is usually a function of time. So it ends up time is your biggest enemy. So you have to find a way to leverage as much as possible. And you have to think holistically. And this is even more important if you are a founder inside an existing company. You have to think about how this idea actually works with everything else I have in the company, with an existing go-to-market model or channel that I have in the company. How does it fit together? You have to think holistically about that. And last but not the least, if you have to take people along with you, and sometimes and having clear metrics are a good way of making that happen. So I would say these are some of the skill sets, mindsets. It's not really very well defined here. It's a mix of skills and mindset, but we have to have those things as a product manager to be able to be successful in making this happen. All right. I spoke a lot. I definitely went about time, so I'll pause here and see if there are any questions.
Good. We have about 5 minutes for questions.
Yeah, I have a question to you. So I run a startup here in San Francisco, Enterprise SaaS. A couple questions that I have are, one, building an MVP better than a competitor. It's how do you approach something like that when competitor has a fully built out product and they have invested millions of dollars in it, and you're still building at the MVP stage? So how do you decide which features to build and outperform the competitor? And can you even do that given the capital limitation you have?
Yeah, so it's a great question. You would not be successful if you go head on against the competitor, which is like an incumbent. If you're going after the same set of use cases in about the same way, it'll be hard for you to be successful. So I think one of the approaches that you could take is think about structural advantages that you have. Or you could have that the competition does not have. And it's one of the things that we do at Box a lot, which is, there are aspects where we as a content collaboration company, we want to be open to all our partners. We want to provide best of breed integration. So it doesn't really matter what tool you like to work on your file. You can choose to use those tools and be productive with Box. But if you look at some of our competition and some of the incumbents in the other areas, they want to build full stack. They have a lot of people and developers, and they can actually make that happen. But then customers that are going with those, vendor solutions, they are locked in that particular framework. They're not benefiting from best of breed integration. So structural differences actually can play a strong role. The other one I would say is if the problems on the surface that you're hearing from your target customer that you're trying to solve seems very similar, you have to probably go deeper and find that pain point that the incumbent is not serving today. And when you do that, either you go with the structural advantage, if you're going after the same use case, but there's a structural advantage, or you find a different use case that the incumbent doesn't have, and you can do better with your strong focus, because many times focus is a very powerful thing, and it compounds. So if you have focus and you do it right, then you actually can achieve what you want to achieve.
Can you maybe give an example from your experience at Box or your professional career where you have done something like that or have come across something like that?
Yep. So I'll give an example early on. So I just gave an example of like what we do at Box around best of breed and taking having some structural advantages there. But I'll take it back to another case where this is like I would say 2012 or so, where I built a part called Security Operations Manager at RSA, and at the time we didn't really have security orchestration and automation products, and the way customers solved their security alerts was through very manual process of getting alerts and somehow triaging them through Excel spreadsheets and then doing incident response. And I found that we could actually do that in a better way by providing very simple workflow to take all the alerts, provide workflow for incident response processes, and make life easier and make security analysts more productive. The challenge there was, as we were thinking about it, was, hey, there are incumbents. There are ticketing system vendors that actually do those workflows. But as I dug deeper, it became very, very evident to us is that they're not, the customers, first of all, are not using those tools to actually solve the problems. So on the surface, it might seem like those incumbents might actually do that, but that wasn't quite the case. And the second thing was the customers that were actually using those products, BMC Remedy or ServiceNow back then, or a CA service desk, they were actually sort of doing a lot of customization to an out-of-the-box, off-the-shelf product to meet their specific need, and they were just not happy. So it became clear to us that, if we can actually go in and solve the specific pain point that's not being done well by the incumbent, or the next best option is an open source, a ticketing tool, we actually have a game here, a play here, and we went about building a product, and it was pretty successful. In the first 12 to 18 months, we actually got to pretty decent ARR.
Got it. Thank you. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Folks, if you have a question, please unmute yourself.
I have a question. Could you elaborate of that 110 NRR?
Yeah, so this is a number that I've seen based on the recommendation I've seen from Jason Lemkin from SaaStr, and he did some analysis on companies that have done well and have IPO'd well, and it came down to having a net retention rate (NRR) of 110% or more, and if you have that, you actually have a business that can grow at a decent clip. And that leads to a very good outcome, either through acquisition or through IPO. So it's literally coming in from Jason's blog. It's not my finding. If that helps.
We can probably take one more question.
I mean, can I go again if nobody's asking?
Go ahead.
The second question I had was, what are your thoughts on scaling an enterprise business without sales and marketing? Because the CAC is super high, and in the end, a lot of the capital, you're not converting that to profits at scale. So what are some of the ways we can scale enterprise SaaS without sales and marketing hires? Minimizing it. So
yeah. So I think you could eventually figure out if you go with sales and you have a high burn rate at the moment, but you have clear evidence that the sales model is very repeatable. You can keep doing it on, and if you scale it, you can figure out that there are at the economy of scale, you can actually improve sales productivity. The sales learning cycle or curve gets better. The sales yield gets better. I think you would want the sales yield to be more than one. If you have that, if you have 2x, great. If you have 3x, even better. But you can find ways to actually make the sales yield, if you will, better over a period of time. But it has to start with a very strong evidence or belief that you actually have a product market channel fit, and that you actually can sell the product in a very repeatable fashion. But if that's not the case, or it could be that you are going after a market where the willingness of the buyer is actually not, they can't pay you a lot, right? So you're probably looking at $1,000 per deal, so on and so forth. Let's assume that's the case. Then you have to gear your channel for that specific market. So it depends on the market you're going after as well. And if you're going after a market like that, then you have to use different approaches. There are good companies, like I think 1Password comes to mind as a security password management company, where they actually have a freemium model. They sell to consumers, and then from there they actually have a way to get to the enterprise, because you can take your password vault as an end user, as a personal account, and then also sort of use it along with your enterprise account. So there are ways to do that, but it depends a lot on the market you're going after. So it goes back to the M of the PMC, product market channel fit, and we can chat more about it.
Okay.
Awesome. Alok, thank you so much. This was a great talk. Folks on the chat, on the phone, we'll have a survey sent out to you. Please fill out the survey. It really helps us get an understanding of how we can do better. Our next talk is on September 30th, a week from now, with the CEO co-founder of Heap. He's going to talk about turning product insights into product actions. So again, Alok, thank you so much. Our next on our agenda, we have our shoutouts. If you have an opportunity, if you're looking for an opportunity, please unmute yourself.
Maybe I can actually do a quick shout out. We are hiring at Box. I'm hiring in my team. So, we're looking for people who have, ML experience or have deep, interest in learning and doing something in ML. If you have shipped an ML-based product, even better. We're looking for people like that. And if you are in the market, if you're interested in working in a great company like Box, we have a great culture. Please reach out to me. My email is alok@box.com. Pretty straightforward. Ping me. I'll be happy to chat with you offline.
Fantastic. Anyone else?
I have a shout out, and maybe I can turn on my camera too. I'm a product manager at Best Buy. I work on the Best Buy app, and we're based in Seattle, and we're hiring just a ton. We've been really busy with COVID, and the app is growing rapidly. So should I post my email in the chat? Is that the easiest?
Yeah, you can do that.
And then we're going to connect on LinkedIn as well.
Okay, great. Yeah, we're hiring product managers and engineers and UX designers, I believe, sort of the whole gamut. So
fantastic.
Farshad here from Contract Wrangler. We combine machine learning and attorneys. So we are a legal tech B2B business. We're growing rapidly and we're hiring all across the board. Growth product manager, product marketing, marketing, sales, engineering. So check out our website, contractwrangler.com.
Cool. And I see we have more shout outs on the chat. We got a couple more minutes if anybody wants to talk about what they're doing, what they're looking to do. If you're looking for an opportunity, also a good chance. Okay, folks, going once, twice. Okay, so what we're gonna do next is we're gonna stick around if you want to network, chat about the talk today. I'm gonna be here for about 15 more minutes. Thank you everybody for being here today. Please fill out the survey. Thank you again, Alok, and we'll see you at the next time.
No worries. Thank you. Thank you. For folks who are staying, I'm actually curious, what approaches have worked for you in product market fit. We'd love to learn from you all as well.
Maybe I'll go. When you go out with, this is enterprise, right? So
Yeah.
I think I've done both the works and doesn't work, more that doesn't work, doesn't fit. But the ones where you have product market fit before you even have built anything, even when you can't totally articulate the value prop in 30 seconds, when people come to you and say basically shut up and take my money, you know you're good. And I think in enterprise it's a lot harder to do. But as you said, don't build a product, right? Build a website, build anything like what Segment did. I think none of us have the leeway to do that in large companies. But even if you go out with a slide deck and talk to your key customers, they buy into it, you're probably on a good track. Nobody understands what you're talking about. It's going back to the drawing board.
Hey guys, my name is Brandon. Oh, turn off my webcam. So at Uber, I was working on a lot of products, new products in emerging markets, and I think our key test was retention, and specifically, are users retaining with you having to throw promotions and driver incentives at them, because that was our key tool to really get that flywheel going in the early days of spinning up a new geography or spinning up a new product line.
Great. I think retention is actually a very good way of knowing how your product is doing in the market without any promotion. So I think that makes tons of sense.
How do you find retention in enterprise business, where I think Box may be a little easier, but you've worked in other products before as well. So I think, other SaaS products that you've had where usage is rare, right? And the number of users is actually pretty small compared to the ARPU, right?
Yes. Yeah, so I think it's a spread in enterprise as well. So I've managed an identity product. I've managed a log management product. And if you look at identity, it touches a lot of different users, like the actual employees in the company, but it does it through an admin that's provisioning users, right? But if you look at log management, the user for that is security operations team. So how do you, like, there's no employee activity, like when they actually look at employee activity, but we don't get any insight into what the end users are doing, right? So with the way we went about those two different scenarios is what's consistent is the person, there are two users you have built it for, right? In many cases, it's IT as your primary audience, and then the actual end users, the employee in the company. So the IT people that you build the product for should be coming to the product frequent enough. Like there has to be a reason why they would use a log management product. There has to be an alert that they care about, and when they click on the alert, there is some activity that they benefit from, so that they can do investigation, and that the ROI is how fast can you close an incident. So there are things like that you can now very specifically optimize for in terms of watching and seeing retention. If you're doing, identity management product, then it's like, how many users are you provisioning? So it's not just the provisioning policies that you have, but also how many users are you provisioning, and is it actually getting used across a bunch of different apps in the company for provisioning, etc. I'm sure Okta does it at a much massive scale these days. If you've read the report, look at a bunch of different metrics, but you get an idea of like what kinds of things you can do to get insights on the IT side, but also the end user side.
Yep, that makes sense. I think a large enterprise I worked for before, we actually did use Segment, and we tried to mimic consumer behavior, right? So, not just, logins, nobody cares about that, but like key activities that the user actually does, right? And you measure on those, kind of define what success looks like, right? What is, if you refer to Brian Balfour's, right? So if you take, the Reforge courses, right? They walk you through all this, right? So basically, how do you capture what is that metric, or what are these metrics that define, engagement? And that's, my experience, that's the hardest piece in enterprise, figuring out what, or maybe generally, what engagement actually is. How do you measure that?
Yeah, I think earlier, also, as I think Alok, you touched on all the important stuff, right? And you may not have enough data either. So there is also a lot of things to understand from talking to prospects and customers. Like, for example, in my experience, you have some form of a roadmap, whatever way you're defining it, what you're going to do in the next, let's say, 6 months. I'm not talking about kind of a vision of what you want to do. And once you, one of the signals that you have product market fit is that as you talk to more and more prospects and customers, you see that it's kind of next things you're building in the next 6 to 9 months. You already have those building blocks planned for, or you're looking into. I'm not talking a list of 100 things. I want to do everything. So whoever says something, you have it on your list. It's more like a list you worked on in the next, let's say, 6 months or so. And then you get more and more validation, and you're not getting surprises. Oh, I had not thought about this at all. So then it becomes a matter of priority of how you do it, especially when you don't have a lot of kind of a data at the beginning. You don't have 1,000 like businesses on your platform. If you're on B2B, I think that's just an indicator. Tells you something.
Yeah. I think it's also very interesting, Oren and Prashad, I 100% agree. Like, it's very important to get your metric right. And first of all, you might come with like 20 metrics, and you have to figure out that one, maybe two metric that truly matters. Actually, it's a hard exercise on its own. The interesting thing I've seen is that early in the cycle, you may actually not even know what that metric should be, because you're trying to figure out, like, how is it being used, et cetera, et cetera. And then it starts like taking some shape, and then you can say, what, that thing is working, and that is the metric, and let's optimize that. Let's just make it better and grow it. So I think there's a little bit of a window where you don't even know what that metric is. You have a general sense of what kinds of metrics you want, but you have to figure out what that is, very quickly. And the sooner you can, the great. But it also means that you have figured out your high expectation customers. You have figured out HXC. I think there's this blog or write-up on First Round on Julie Sapan's point of view on HXC. I think all of you should read it. Actually, it's a very useful framework, especially when you think about how do you build the right positioning and a positioning for the product, but also maybe for the brand, and how it can help you scale the business going forward. It's a pretty good framework for that. And it was interesting that Rahul Vora at Superhuman used that concept in a different way. But I think if you figure out your HXC, you're very, very close, in my opinion, to a product market fit. So I think it's a little bit of a catch-22 if you're an enterprise. But yeah, that's an interesting observation.
It also depends on the user, right? Because it's different per user. Right? Your billing admin doesn't care about the same things that your systems admin cares about, and so on.
Yep.
I'm trying not to hog the conversation, man. Anybody else thoughts on the session today?
Alok, I'd love to learn what is the latest exciting piece that you have built or Box has built, if it is a fairly big team now. So I don't know if it's just your team or anything interesting, and how you got there, you have product market fit, but then now you're adding so many new kind of products within your product, if you will.
Yep.
And which one is going on a crazy growth path or market fit path?
Great question. So yeah, you're right. I mean, Box as a core business achieved product market fit a long time ago, and what we've done since is that we have built add-on products on top of the core product. And the reason we did that is because when we're talking to our customers that were using Box for file collaboration internally and externally, they were talking about, I need a way to have content retention to meet XYZ compliance requirement, or I need to have data residency requirements met by keeping the files and data in a specific region, or I need some advanced DLP controls, or I want to encrypt file using my own key, not your key, Box, because I don't trust you. So there are things like that, and we found those needs, and those needs were consistent across different customers, and it aligned with our target audience, which is the core platform that we sell. So we ended up taking some of those groups of use cases, and we built add-on on top. So we started with Box Governance, and we added Box KeySafe. We added our Box platform, which is how we sell our APIs for specific use cases to our customers. And we added Box Relay, which is our workflow. If you're working on content, you can easily have like content-centric workflows, such as a review of a document, or onboarding an employee or a customer, or you're doing insurance claim, and all those claim documents are in Box. You can use our workflow product to do that. And then we last year we released this thing called Box Shield, and Box Shield is something that I drove at Box, and it's I'm saying this because it is fact, not because I built it. It's the fastest growing add-on at Box, so super proud of that. What the team has done. Area, it's actually going after a need that is unmet. A lot of the things that we just talked about today, actually, I've literally used that in building it and where we are. Yeah, I think long-winded answer to your question, those are the things we have done recently. And we had BoxWorks, our digital conference, a few days ago. I can probably pop in a link here, but if you watch that, you'll see all the latest and greatest that we announced at BoxWorks. Let's see if I can find that link.
Alok, I have a question. Do you guys are you looking to also introduce a feature that lets you track viewers on how much they're viewing your file, how many times they're viewing the files, and so on, in terms of box?
Yeah, so we actually today we do track the activity around the file, whether it's the user interacting the content, whether it's our best of breed integrations that are used to access the content. So we have app activities and user activities. So we do track that and we summarize that right next to the file that the user is viewing in box. So we do have that.
Yeah, but I guess what I was referring to was metadata in terms of how many times they've viewed the file, how much time they've spent on the file. So the reason I'm asking this is I work in manufacturing and I have to share a lot of sensitive CAD files to machine shops across the country and in Asia as well. And we now have some Fortune 500 clients who want utmost security of file sharing for CAD drawings that have sensitive IP. And we use Box, but it tends to drop off when the file is downloaded or viewed. We don't know how many times it's getting viewed. And maybe if there was a way where the 3D printer or the machine shop on the end did not download it, but directly use the file from Box, then we know the IP is secured through Box. So that's these things. I would love to like have this in Box as a proud or happy user, I would say.
Well, that's great. So Nishant, I think we should chat more. I think the idea you have actually makes tons of sense to me. And yes, you're right. We don't do that today. I'd love to actually provide visibility. I think we should chat more offline. I want to poke in more on how we can help.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'll email you.
Great.
All right.
Anything else? It doesn't have to be about my talk. It can be anything else you folks are facing or want to talk about.
You miss going to work?
Same here. Actually, the funny thing is,
I have this for you. I know.
We actually, when we're doing the BoxWorks digital conference recording, for the recording, we actually had to go to the office. So our team did a lot of cleanup to make sure it's safe and secure for us and all that. But it was great to be in the office, see people after a long time. I wish like we could find reasons to do that. Maybe more BoxWorks would be the reason to do it.
Yeah.
Have you all folks figured out, how's remote work and working with the team and collaborating working out for you? Like, have you figured out a happy path medium that seems to work consistently across teams and regions?
Hey, Alok, I think that's a great question. I think there is a remote work and virtual company, and what's happening right now, given that pandemic is dragging on, even though many of us in high-tech companies do a lot of remote work, it has never been the case that we're not most of the companies, I'd say, are not set up to be a virtual company. Like Envision is a virtual company, and even with a virtual company, you have like these occasions that people come at a conference or a week treat or something. So as you're hiring new team members, you have new people at the company who are now onboarding virtually. I think it's some challenges are around being a virtual company. If this drags on, which it is much longer, it's out of that. I don't know. I wonder how everyone thinks, but there are challenges coming that are now changing after 6 months, like new members that you don't have the momentum that you have with former members of the team. That's one example.
Yep.
I don't know how you handle it, or if anybody here, I'm sure they're best practices, but it's a challenge. How do you do that, Box, Alok, for new team members who have not been?
Say it again.
how are you handling new team members, like in terms of virtual onboard, no momentum in terms of meeting in person, any members of the team? Are you implementing best practices? Because at the beginning it's been like more of a best effort, but now it's getting longer. So I wonder if you're having any systematic approach to it.
Yeah. So as a company, we have done a few things. From an onboarding process standpoint, HR has done a phenomenal job in terms of the first week when the employee joins, the kind of things we do, the packets are ready for them, and it's optimized for sort of virtual environment that we're all in. So we're using a tool like WorkRamp, and onboarding documents and all that, training videos and all that are available. It's like step by step ready for the employees as much as we can. There are always some inefficiencies that are getting better. It's one thing, and then as a manager, I'm just overly cautious. Actually, I hired two people in my team in the last 2.5 months. One director, one senior product manager, and it was hard. I had to over-index on writing as much as I can, not relying on in-person meetings, and solving for that through pulling all information for the first time. I crowdsourced information. Because many times in large companies, and I think Oren would relate to it, people have a lot of information in their heads, not on paper. So we actually did a good amount of work to crowdsource and have it already in sort of phases so that the employee can actually consume. But one thing that we do miss is whiteboarding. You can be in the same room and whiteboard. So we are trying to solve for that. People who actually have iPads, they're actually connecting iPads to Zoom, and it works great with Apple Pencil. And those that don't have an iPad, they're actually using very simple tools. One of my principal architects in my team, he actually literally uses a small whiteboard he carries, the one that my son uses, and I think literally he whiteboards and explains the concepts because this guy can go deep on tech, and I'm very very weak on tech, so he would explain things to me in a very simple way by using a simple whiteboard. So I think those are some of the approaches that we're using. So on the HR side, changing processes, optimizing for virtual. As a hiring manager, get all possible information together, and then solving for the problems that the team has, which is how do we whiteboard. So we're using some techniques there. I'm curious how others are doing it, but those are things that I'm following across.
Yeah, actually, I've experienced firsthand joining a company during this pandemic. So as an employee, I've not set foot in an office building throughout this, like the past 5 months. And the company does whatever it can, which is great. I think a few tactical pieces of advice that I would provide is turn on video camera when possible. It's hard enough to read people with a video camera, but without it's harder. So we do across our teams do a pretty good job at that. And the other is have virtual coffees, right? Just paying people, have virtual coffees, get to know people like you would had you actually gone to work there. Folks, we are at time, so I think we're going to cut this here. At least I'm going to skip. Thank you again. This was great, and thanks everybody for the participation and the engagement. And looking forward to seeing you here next time.
Thank you.
Cool. Thanks for meeting you all.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Cheers.
Thanks, everyone. We'll see you next time.